They say the most dangerous person is the one who gives you everything while expecting nothing in return, because eventually they'll have nothing left to give but their life. In February 2023, the community of Riverside, Ohio gathered to say goodbye to Anthony Davis, beloved son, brother, and by all accounts a man who worked himself to the bone for his family. As mourners lowered his casket into the frozen ground, his wife Monica dabbed at her eyes with a silk handkerchief, accepting condolences with theatrical grace. 2 hours later, Monica Davis would be in the arms of another man in the same bed she had shared with her husband. The only witness to this betrayal was Jerome Davis, Anthony's younger brother, who had come to collect his brother's prized possession, a watch their father had given Anthony before he died. What happened next would leave one person dead, a man facing murder charges, and a family destroyed by secrets that should have come to light long before grief turned to rage. This is the story of what happens when loyalty meets betrayal, when the mask of marriage slips to reveal the monster beneath, and how sometimes the real funeral isn't for the first person who dies. It's for the truth that died long before. Anthony Davis was born in 1985 in Riverside, Ohio, the oldest son of Patricia and Samuel Davis. Raised in a household that valued hard work and family above all else, Anthony absorbed these lessons early. Former teachers described him as reliable, the kind of student who showed up early to help set up events and stayed late to clean up, never complaining about either. From elementary school, Anthony displayed a sense of responsibility that set him apart. His third-grade teacher, Mrs. Thompson, recalled how Anthony would notice when something needed to be done and just do it without being asked. Most children that age need direction, but not Anthony. He had an innate sense of duty that would define his entire life. This sense of duty would prove both Anthony's greatest strength and his ultimate weakness. Throughout high school, he maintained solid grades while working part-time at a local auto parts store, handing most of his paychecks to his parents and keeping only enough for necessities. When classmates asked why, he would simply shrug and say, "My family needs it more than I do." When Samuel Davis died of a heart attack during Anthony's senior year, the 18-year-old stepped up without hesitation. He deferred his college plans to help his mother with his younger brothers, Jerome and Kevin. He took over his father's shifts at the neighborhood garage, learning the business from the ground up while taking community college classes at night. Jerome, younger by just 2 years, remembers this period vividly. Anthony never complained, not once. He'd work all day, come home to help Mama with dinner, then stay up studying. He just handled everything like it was his responsibility alone. By age 28, Anthony had achieved his dream of homeownership, a modest 3-bedroom house in a quiet Riverside neighborhood. The home, purchased entirely through his own efforts, represented everything Anthony valued: security, stability, and the promise of future family gatherings. It was at this pivotal moment that fate introduced him to Monica Parker, a decision that would ultimately seal his fate. Monica entered Anthony's life in 2013, when he had finally established himself professionally and personally. She was 26, a single mother of 2 children by different fathers, working sporadically at various retail jobs. According to friends, Anthony was immediately captivated by her beauty.
If you're enjoying this story, kindly do us a favor and subscribe to our channel. It is free and won't cost anything, but it means the world to us. We're just a small channel trying to grow. Thank you, and back to the video.
And what he perceived as her strength in raising children alone. Their meeting at a church fundraiser seemed almost orchestrated. Monica, volunteering at the registration table, spent the evening flirting with Anthony, who had been reluctantly dragged to the event by coworkers. What Anthony didn't realize was that Monica had done her research, asking questions around town about eligible bachelors with stable jobs and good prospects. "I remember thinking it was strange how quickly she focused on him," recalled David Mitchell, Anthony's colleague. There were plenty of single guys there, but after talking to Anthony for 5 minutes, it was like she had locked onto a target. The warning signs were there from the beginning. Monica hadn't held a job for more than 6 months at a time. Her children's fathers were completely absent, providing no support. Her lifestyle, designer clothes, regular salon visits, lavish birthday parties for her children, was funded by a rotating cast of boyfriends and family members. Friends tried to warn him. Jerome was particularly vocal about his concerns. "I told him she was using him," Jerome later told investigators. But Anthony just said everyone deserved a chance at happiness, that her kids deserved stability, that he could be what they all needed. They married in 2014 after an 8-month courtship. By then, Monica was pregnant with her 3rd child by another man. According to multiple sources, Anthony knew the child wasn't his, but promised to raise it as his own. The wedding itself foreshadowed the imbalance that would define their marriage. Anthony suggested a simple ceremony, but Monica had other ideas. She wanted the works. Anthony cashed in his modest retirement savings, picked up additional weekend shifts, stocking shelves at a grocery store, and sold his prized collection of vintage car parts to give Monica the wedding of her dreams. He looked exhausted at his own wedding, but when Jerome mentioned it, Anthony just smiled and said, "Did you see how happy she looks? Worth every penny." The changes began immediately after the wedding. Monica quit her part-time job, claiming she needed to focus on the children. Then came complaints about their home. The kids needed more space. They needed a better neighborhood. To meet these expectations, Anthony took on a second job as a night security guard. What troubled Anthony's family most was how quickly Monica began isolating him. Sunday dinners at Patricia's house became inconvenient, then monthly, then just holidays. Invitations for fishing trips with his brothers were declined. Text messages went unanswered for days. Within months, their modest furnishings were replaced with higher-end items. The practical Honda was traded for a luxury SUV Monica insisted they needed. Credit card statements revealed Monica spent over $3,000 monthly on clothing, beauty treatments, and home decor, while Anthony worked 70-hour weeks to keep up with the bills. By 2022, the physical toll was becoming evident. Medical records show Anthony's doctor warned him about high blood pressure and stress-related symptoms. He was prescribed medication he often couldn't afford to fill. During one appointment, his doctor noted concerns about potential emotional abuse, but Anthony declined psychological evaluation, stating he didn't have time. Multiple witnesses reported seeing him falling asleep at church, at family events, even once at a stoplight. While Anthony worked himself to exhaustion, Monica's social media told a different story. Girls' trips to Cincinnati, shopping sprees in Columbus, spa weekends, all while Anthony covered shifts and cared for her children. The last photo of Anthony Davis was taken 3 days before his death at his auto shop's holiday party. Co-workers described him as upbeat as always, but noted he looked like he hadn't slept in years. On February 12, 2023, Anthony Davis arose at 5 a.m. as he did every morning, preparing breakfast for Monica's children, teenagers who had come to love the man who had raised them despite having no biological connection. The last communication between Anthony and Monica was a text exchange after he had dropped the children at school. "Don't forget the electric bill money is on the counter. Due today," Anthony texted. "I need more than that. Getting my hair done at 11. I don't get paid till Friday. The bill has to be paid today or they'll cut it off again. Figure it out. You know how important this appointment is." According to co-workers, Anthony spent his lunch break at a check cashing place, taking out a high-interest loan to cover both the utility bill and Monica's salon appointment. It was his third such loan in 2 months. At approximately 3:30 p.m., security footage shows Anthony rolling out from under a car, clutching his head. He attempted to stand, staggered, and collapsed. Co-workers called 911 immediately, but by the time paramedics arrived, Anthony was unresponsive. At Riverside Memorial Hospital, doctors worked for over an hour to stabilize Anthony, who had suffered a massive stroke. Years of untreated high blood pressure, chronic stress, and exhaustion had created a ticking time bomb. While the medical team fought to save his life, calls were placed to his emergency contacts. Monica, reached at her hair appointment, reportedly told the hospital secretary, "I'm in the middle of getting my hair done. Can't someone else handle this?" Jerome, who left work immediately, arrived within 20 minutes. Monica arrived over 2 hours later, hair freshly styled, complaining about having to leave early. Hospital staff noted the stark difference in their responses. Jerome devastated and attentive, Monica irritated and constantly checking her phone. While Jerome made arrangements and contacted family, phone records show Monica was texting with someone saved as T, later identified as Terrell Jackson. One text sent by Monica less than an hour after Anthony was pronounced dead read, "It's done. He's gone. Now we don't have to worry anymore." Terrell's response, "About time. Now we can be together for real. That house is yours now." Within hours of her husband's death, Monica had contacted his life insurance company and begun making an inventory of his possessions. She argued with the funeral director about costs despite Anthony having a policy specifically for funeral expenses and rushed arrangements for the earliest possible service date. Anthony's funeral was held at Grace Baptist Church, where he had attended since childhood. Multiple attendees commented on Monica's appearance. A designer black dress more appropriate for a cocktail party, 6-inch heels, and freshly applied burgundy nails. Throughout the service, witnesses reported Monica checking her phone repeatedly and appearing impatient rather than grief-stricken. The service concluded with a video montage of Anthony's life, conspicuously absent of photos of him with Monica. After the burial, tradition called for a repast at the Davis family home, but Monica cut it short, claiming she was overwhelmed despite Patricia and her daughters-in-law having prepared all the food. By 2:45 p.m., Monica had ushered out the last guests, including Anthony's immediate family. Phone records show she immediately called Terrell Jackson, who was waiting nearby. "The coast is clear," she told him. "Bring champagne, the good stuff. We're celebrating." Meanwhile, Jerome realized he had forgotten to collect a personal item of immense sentimental value, a vintage watch that had belonged to their father. That watch represented more than just a timepiece, Jerome later explained. "It was the last thing our dad gave Anthony, and I couldn't bear the thought of Monica selling it." At approximately 3:30 p.m., just 2 hours after Anthony's funeral ended, Jerome and his friend Marcus Williams arrived at the Davis home. They noticed an unfamiliar car parked down the street, but thought nothing of it. When Jerome reached the front door, he found it slightly ajar. "I knocked and called out Monica's name," Jerome stated in his police interview. "When there was no answer, I got concerned. I pushed the door open and stepped inside, calling out once more." The house was quiet except for faint sounds from back, music playing low, then unmistakable laughter. As Jerome made his way down the hallway toward the master bedroom, he could see the door was partially open. What Jerome witnessed next would change multiple lives forever. Through the doorway, he saw Monica, still in her funeral outfit minus the shoes, straddling a shirtless man. They were sharing a bottle of champagne on the bed, covered with the same sheets Anthony had slept in just days earlier. "I couldn't process what I was seeing," Jerome later told police. "My brother wasn't even cold in the ground. We had just buried him hours ago. And there she was, laughing, drinking, celebrating." Jerome pushed the door open fully, startling the couple. Monica scrambled off Terrell's lap, but rather than showing shame,
If you're enjoying this story, kindly do us a favor and subscribe to our channel. It is free and won't cost anything, but it means the world to us. We're just a small channel trying to grow. Thank you, and back to the video.
her expression shifted to irritation. "What are you doing in my house?" she demanded. "Your house." Jerome responded, his voice thick with emotion. "This is my brother's house. The brother we just buried today. What the hell is wrong with you?" The exchange escalated quickly. Monica's response was chilling. Anthony is dead. Get over it. I have to move on with my life. At this point, Terrell Jackson inserted himself into the confrontation. Background checks would later reveal Jackson had an extensive criminal history, including domestic violence charges. Standing 6'4" and weighing approximately 250 pounds, he physically intimidated the smaller Jerome. "Get out before I make you regret coming here," Jackson reportedly threatened. "This is Monica's house now. You and your family ain't welcome." What Jackson didn't know was that Jerome, despite his smaller stature, had served 4 years in the military before becoming an electrician. The confrontation quickly escalated to violence when Jackson lunged at Jerome, shoving him against the hallway wall. The struggle moved chaotically through the house, knocking over memorial photos of Anthony that had been displayed at the funeral just hours earlier. Jackson slammed Jerome into a side table, leaving him with a broken nose and cuts across his face. But Jerome fought back with the adrenaline of rage and grief. The confrontation spilled out onto the front lawn, where Jerome's friend Marcus had exited their vehicle to assist. This triggered an escalation from Jackson, who ran to his car and retrieved a handgun from the glove compartment. A neighbor, Mrs. Henderson, began recording while dialing 911. Jackson fired one shot, which missed Jerome. As he adjusted to fire again, Monica moved into the line of fire, whether attempting to stop him or position herself differently. Witness accounts vary. The second shot struck Monica in the neck. She collapsed immediately. Marcus, who had first aid training, rushed to apply pressure to the wound, while Jerome called 911. "Please help." Jerome's first words to the dispatcher were, "My brother's wife has been shot. Please hurry." In the confusion, Jackson fled the scene, but was apprehended 6 hours later at a motel outside Cleveland, attempting to cross state lines. Monica was transported to Riverside Memorial Hospital, the same hospital where her husband had died just 4 days earlier. Though surgeons repaired the physical damage, the neurological damage was irreversible. Monica remained on life support for 3 days while her children and, surprisingly, Anthony's family maintained a vigil. 1 week later, Monica Davis was pronounced dead at age 39. As detectives investigated, they uncovered evidence that cast the case in an entirely different light. Forensic examination of electronic devices revealed a relationship between Monica and Jackson dating back at least 18 months. Hotel receipts showed weekly meetings, often during Anthony's work hours. Financial records revealed Monica had transferred over $17,000 to Jackson in the 6 months before Anthony's death. More disturbing were text exchanges discussing Anthony's health and life insurance policy. In November 2022, Monica had written, "Doctor says his blood pressure is through the roof. Matter of time before something happens. Then we get the $250K and can do whatever we want." Jackson's response: "Need to make sure he keeps working both jobs. More stress equals faster results." Medical records revealed Anthony's doctor had prescribed blood pressure medication and recommended stress reduction. Pharmacy records showed irregular filling of prescriptions with gaps that aligned with periods when Monica had major expenses. The evidence suggested she was actively preventing him from taking life-saving medication. Perhaps the most heartbreaking testimony came from Monica's oldest daughter, Tiffany. Now 17 and in the care of her biological father, she provided investigators with insights into the household dynamics. "Mom was always telling Anthony he wasn't doing enough," Tiffany told detectives. "No matter how hard he worked, it was never good enough. She'd hide his blood pressure medication sometimes, saying we couldn't afford it, then go get Botox the same day." Tiffany described witnessing her mother flush Anthony's medication down the toilet on multiple occasions, while simultaneously ordering luxury items online. The week before he died, he was having these really bad headaches. Mom told him to take some aspirin and get over it. Though Anthony's death had initially been ruled natural causes, these revelations prompted a secondary examination. While the medical examiner couldn't definitively classify it as homicide, they noted that systematic psychological abuse and deliberate interference with medical treatment likely contributed significantly to his fatal condition. Jackson was charged with second-degree murder in Monica's death, attempted murder of Jerome, illegal possession of a firearm, and other charges. Facing up to 60 years in prison, his defense team attempted to shift blame to Monica, claiming she had manipulated him just as she had manipulated Anthony. "She told me she had nothing to do with his death," Jackson claimed, "but she sure seemed to be counting on it happening soon." The prosecution countered forcefully. Regardless of Monica's actions, Mr. Jackson made his own choices. He chose to engage in an affair, accept money from Anthony's accounts, bring a firearm to the deceased's home on the day of his funeral, and discharge that weapon. The trial became a media sensation. Public sympathy remained firmly with the Davis family, particularly after Jerome's emotional testimony describing the scene he had witnessed. "I keep seeing it when I close my eyes," Jerome testified. "My brother worked himself to death for that woman, and she couldn't even wait until his body was cold before replacing him." Halfway through the trial, Jackson abruptly changed his plea to guilty on all charges except attempted murder, which was reduced to aggravated assault. Judge Patricia Foster delivered her sentence: 40 years with possibility of parole after 25. "Mr. Jackson, while Ms. Davis's actions toward her husband were reprehensible, they do not justify your criminal behavior," Judge Foster stated. "You chose to insert yourself into a grieving family's life with tragic consequences." For Jerome, the verdict brought mixed emotions. "Nothing brings my brother back," he told reporters. "Anthony deserved so much better. He gave everything to people who just took until there was nothing left." The Davis family established the Anthony Davis Foundation, which provides education about financial abuse and supports victims regardless of gender. Patricia Davis, now raising Monica's youngest child, found purpose in continuing Anthony's legacy of generosity while advocating for recognition of male victims of domestic abuse. Jerome used his portion of Anthony's life insurance payout to open his own electrical contracting business, naming it Davis Brothers Electric in honor of Anthony. The business made a point of hiring single parents and offering flexible scheduling to accommodate family responsibilities. Today, Anthony and Monica Davis lie buried in the same cemetery, though Monica's family chose a plot far from Anthony's. On Anthony's headstone, beneath his name and dates, is an epitaph chosen by his family. He gave everything until there was nothing left to give but his life itself. The case prompted legislative change in Ohio, with the passage of Anthony's Law in 2024, expanding the definition of domestic abuse to include financial exploitation and medical neglect, with enhanced penalties when such abuse results in serious harm or death. The tragedy of Anthony Davis isn't just that he died too young, but that throughout his life, he never realized his own worth beyond what he could provide for others. While Monica and Jackson saw him as merely a means to financial security, they failed to recognize the genuine treasure they had: a man of integrity, compassion, and unwavering commitment. Anthony's story serves as a powerful reminder that giving should have limits, that self-sacrifice shouldn't come at the expense of self-preservation. It reminds us to check on our strong friends, the ones who never complain, because sometimes beneath that strength lies a vulnerability that those with ill intentions are willing to exploit. The Anthony Davis Foundation continues spreading this message across the country. Their motto, taken from Patricia Davis's words at her son's funeral, has become a powerful reminder. Your worth is not measured by what you provide. It is inherent in who you are. In the end, justice was served. Jackson received the punishment he deserved, Monica's schemes were exposed, and Anthony's true character was revealed for all to see. The community of Riverside learned valuable lessons about recognizing the signs of abuse, and legislative changes will help protect others from similar exploitation. Anthony Davis's legacy lives on in the lives he touched, the lessons his story teaches, and the changes his tragedy inspired. His foundation has helped countless victims recognize dangerous relationships and find the courage to seek help. In that way, his legacy of giving continues, not through the depletion of self, but through the enlightenment of others. If this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe for more true crime stories that matter. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that their value isn't in what they provide, but in who they are. And remember, true love doesn't drain you, it sustains you. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is recognize when giving has become dangerous and find the courage to protect yourself. Justice was served, but the real victory is in the lives that will be saved by Anthony's story. That's the truest form of justice, ensuring that his death wasn't in vain and that others might learn from his tragedy before it's too late.